Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag? You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look. No plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit TampaBayRecycles.org.
Good morning, and welcome to the special meeting of the Transportation Planning Organizational Meeting. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we have the roll call, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Chris Bowles to our meeting. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Okay, Gail, can you give us a roll call, please?
Commissioner Myers?
Here.
Mayor Ross? Here. Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Wastel?
Here.
Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Bowles?
Here.
Councilmember Clendenin is excused. Councilmember Hurtak?
Here virtually.
And she does have an extenuating circumstance and will be participating virtually today. Councilmember Maniscalco?
Here.
Mayor Kilton?
Here.
Board Member Rendon? Here. Charles Klug?
Here.
Gina Dew? Here. Greg Slater?
Here.
Gary Hartfield?
Present.
Planning Commissioner Joseph?
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum.
Thank you so much. We have the approval of the minutes for September 3rd, 2024.
Second.
Who made the motion? I didn't. Oh, okay. Did you get that, Gail? Okay, thank you. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposes? That motion is carried. Do we have any public comment? Anyone in the audience speak public? So none. Public comment, moving right along. Can we have our status reports? The Region Competitiveness Report. Good morning, Bermuda Simmons, Tampa Bay Partnership. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having me this morning. Thank you for inviting me to kind of share about what's a little bit that's happening in the region from a data perspective. How do I? Is it this? Okay.
Oh, you use these down here.
Okay.
Use the left and right.
Okay. All right. So for those of you who are not familiar with the partnership is a coalition of C-suite leaders from both the business and the not-for-profit community. We have about 40 companies that invest in the partnership today that represent 130,000 jobs in the 8-county region. You can see a little bit of the logos of the companies that are involved, everything from the sports teams to financial services to not-for-profits to healthcare companies. We're defining the region as Citrus all the way down to Sarasota and over to Polk County. That's how we define the region. As most of you know, the cornerstone of our work is each year, in conjunction with United Way Suncoast and the Community Foundation, we put out a competitiveness report, which basically measures our region against 19 other markets around the country. Just came here to share a little bit of the data of how we're doing so far. Full disclosure, all of you should have received the invitation for us. The 2025 data will be coming out in February, on February 13th, at our State of the Region there. But long story made short, there's a lot of good news happening here in Tampa Bay. First and foremost, we're a very attractive community. We were #1 last year in the competitive set for net in-migration of residents into our community. We're #1 again with a growth rate of about 2.8%. And we've seen a really strong growth of folks between the ages of 20 and 34. So we're seeing a lot of young people moving into the Tampa Bay region. Our wages continue to rise. We're a little over $60,000. That's gone up about $3,300 every year for the last 3 years. As you can see, that puts us a little bit under $10,000 off the national average and puts us a little bit at the bottom of the competitive set. But you can see that Hillsborough has the strongest wage in the region at a little over $68,000 here in Hillsborough County. As a reminder, when I do show the data from county by county, it's not from a competitive perspective. It's just to give some context. We're not having the counties compete against one another. It's just for context. We're trying to beat Nashville and Austin and Charlotte, et cetera. Affordability continues to be an issue for us here in the region. You can see right now in our community, for every dollar that our residents earn, they're spending about 57 cents of their take-home pay on transportation and housing costs alone. Please keep in mind, they haven't bought a bite of food. That's just how they get to work and where they live. As you can see, housing alone is about 43 cents of that. We are seeing that come down a little bit, but that's still putting a lot of burden on our residents from an affordability standpoint. We did see our housing prices fall about 3.5% year over year, but we were up 22% 3 years ago, year over year. So coming down in 3.5% increments still gives us a long way to go from an affordability standpoint. I think a lot of you are familiar with the United Way ALICE lingo, which stands for Asset Limited Income and Employed. If this was the 1990s, we would call these people the full-time working poor. These are people who are working every day full-time, but they don't have enough money to make basic needs get their basic needs met. And you can see our poverty rates are improving. Those green numbers mean that they're improving, but our full-time poverty worker rate at 2.48% is not improving. We fell 6 points, six places in our ranking year over year from 11th to 17th out of the 20 markets that we compare ourselves against. Since you guys are the transportation, I wanted to share with you, there are about 10 indicators that we track each year from an infrastructure and transportation perspective. Unfortunately, we're in the bottom quartile in 8 of those 10 indicators. I do like to remind you that this is not any data that the partnership has put together. This is data that we pull and source from around the country and pull it specifically for our region. So if you have any questions about the source, where it came from, how it is, happy to share that with any of you. So we've got a lot of work to go, from everything from congestion to transit ridership, to walkability, to commute times. Our commute times did come down a little bit, but that's because so many of our businesses are allowing workers to still be in a hybrid environment, so we're not seeing as many workers on the roads at the same time. So you can see the average commute time here in Tampa Bay is a little over 28 minutes, which is a little higher than the national average and puts us about middle of the pack at 14th, ranked 14th. And you can see Hillsborough County's commute rate is 28.6 minutes. And then this is the share of our commuters that have greater than an hour commute. We are seeing this number grow because of the affordability issues. So people are being pushed further out where they can afford to live, to come back into the core where the jobs are. So you can see a little over 9% of our residents have longer than an hour commute, which is higher than the national average at 8.5%. And this is probably the indicator that keeps me up the most at night. We want this number to be 0. This is pedestrian and cyclist fatalities here in the region, and this number is growing. We're at 5.58. That's almost 4.5 times the national average. Again, we don't want anyone to lose their life in Tampa Bay because they're walking or riding a bicycle. And then this is our transit supply and demand number. You can see we're at 5.54, and then transit vehicle revenue miles per capita at 7.3. So our ridership is over 4 times less than the U.S. average and 6 times less than the leader in that space. Again, this is a quick snapshot of some of the data. We track over 67 indicators, everything from educational attainment to economic vitality to transportation and infrastructure to civic quality. If you want to get more of a deep dive, here's the QSR code that can take you to that. We can basically drill down to any county and any demographic as detailed as you'd like to be. Essentially, what the partnership does is work to, convene and activate us as a region. So this is some of the stuff that we've been working on. Things that you guys care about here are, we have our regional county roundtables, which I know all of you commissioners have been invited to participate in our roundtable. We actually have one this afternoon that we're doing with our career source folks around the region, around workforce. We've been advocating, obviously, for the regional NPO. I've come and spoken with you guys about that, and also working with in the region on the Regional Infrastructure Accelerator. And this is just some of the other issues where we've worked from an advocacy perspective as an organization. So I'll pause and see if I don't think I'm over my time. I think I can take a couple of questions if anyone has any questions for us this morning.
Any questions? Board Member Slater.
Good morning, Bimitra.
Good morning.
To see you.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you for the work on this. I'm a little bit of a data junkie, and so I love seeing these reports. I know there's really 2 questions. One is when it comes to, we see the growth in the region, because I know we see it on our system in terms of the travel. is there a place that we're seeing more job growth than others? And because what I'm trying to figure out is, where are people coming from, where are they living, where are they going to, how can we make that better? And then one of the things I'm always interested in is what part can we play individually in what we do every day to help drive those numbers? So I would welcome a follow-up conversation to kind of talk about that.
Sure. So thank you for that. Well, most of you, I mean, you probably get sick of me asking for meetings with you, but I try to meet with all of you on a regular basis to, hear what's going on in your respective districts, hear what's going on in your respective organizations so that we can work collaboratively together. So that was the first thing I would say is how can we work together is we have to have a conversation. We have to have an open dialogue to be able to do that. So that's first and foremost. B is just, having a willing listening ear of what the business community is saying, what they're seeing that they need. We have a lot of the top employers in our region are investors in the partnership, so we have a good pulse on, what's going on from a business community standpoint. The biggest thing that we're seeing is the ability to retain talent here. What I'm hearing from our employers, 5-7 years ago, they were having trouble with lower level employees. Now they're having trouble with affordability for higher level employees. That's our biggest challenge is affordability. So if you talk to, for example, our hospitals, they have to, physicians have to live within a certain number of miles from a hospital because they have to be able to get to the hospital. If they can't afford to live near that hospital, then they're going to decline to take those opportunities to move here into our community. So the affordability piece, I think, can be solved not only by, having higher wage-paid jobs, but also having more transit and transportation options for our residents to be able to move around the region. Thank you. Hopefully that answered your question.
Anyone else? Okay.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We thank you for the overview. Appreciate it. Okay, next is Hart, response inquiry, service update. Justin Willis and Melanie. Justice coming up. Good morning.
Morning, Chair, board members, and Dr. Wong. Justin Willits, Director of Planning and Scheduling at Hart, here to just, at the request of the board, to address some of the questions raised. And I'll present most of these slides, and the last one is a budgets and grants question, so Melanie Williams will step up. And I can pause as needed as we go through these, but I'll take it from the top. Some of the high-level inquiries were related to post-COVID ridership and service levels. Just to clarify some things, there have not been any recent service cuts. We've fluctuated where we allocate our resources, but there hasn't been any cuts recently. Ridership has rebounded faster than our service levels have come back, and I'll show that with some slides. Talk a little bit about the FDOT study that finished about a year ago. Some of the suggestions in there about a cost allocation model, some of the observations in there about us running a very efficient service and mostly struggling with a dedicated funding source. There was some inquiries about where the riders went, and they're still here. Where they're coming from has changed a little bit and evolved from basically as a result of the affordability crisis. Most historically the riders have been closer to the core in Tampa and Hillsborough. A lot of those are getting pushed out to the fringes of our service areas in a lot of ways. And then there was a inquiry about per capita ridership, and it's really a function of service level, and per capita spending on transit is very correlated to the ridership that we see. Hurricane Ian recovery will be touched on by Ms. Williams, and then the relationship to the fare-free streetcar, and that also relates back to the FDOT study and the cost allocation we've completed to date. So I just wanted to talk first about the service supply and ridership, because there's a direct correlation. What you can see in 2019, the blue line shows the number of annual service hours that we put on the street. It's one of the key ways we measure how much service we put out there. And then the ridership in orange, about 12 million. This is bus only, so you can see about 12 million riders with 660,000 service hours. Since 2020, since the dip in service for the COVID time period and then ramp back up, you've seen ridership has rebounded much faster than our service levels. That's a function of inflation. Tampa Bay has had one of the highest inflationary in the country, as far as I know, the housing prices, that sort of thing. Our CBA, which dictates how our cost per hour grows for the operations employees, cost of fuel, our healthcare costs. For example, we saw a 24% increase in our healthcare costs for the agency, negotiated down to 14% for this year. So that was a success story, despite it still growing and contributing to some of the reasons why we haven't got back to pre-COVID levels, and I'll touch on that throughout this presentation. So when you add streetcar in, you can see that that's almost 13 million riders in 2019 to about 12.5 million now. The streetcar, when it's included, there's been a lot of growth in the streetcar ridership, so that's made this look even better when you add streetcar and bus together. Moving through, we wanted to talk a little bit about how effective our service is and what are some of the highlights and things that we're doing very well. When you compare how many people ride our bus per hour of service, we are better than everyone on this slide, which are most peers that are good for us to compare to, other than Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is something I'm really proud of as a service planner. This is the key of what I do and my department does, is we put service on the street and we hope people use it. This shows people do use it. You might see an empty bus somewhere out in the fringes of our service area, but by the time that thing gets to the other line, there's on average 20 people that have used that service for every hour that bus is on the road. That's what this shows. And I will just brag a little bit. We are much better than PSTA, 50% better. So they're not here to defend themselves. So. And then another way to look at this, this is the vehicles operated in max service on the right side of here. So despite pre-COVID, we were at about 133 peak vehicles on a weekday. That's another way we measure it, right? Right now, we're at about 103 planned for January. But despite that, we are still climbing back to the ridership levels that we saw pre-COVID. So if we could get back to that pre-COVID service level, I have no doubt that we would surpass our ridership in 2019. There are a lot of challenges with that. Our cost per revenue hour has been climbing for inflationary reasons. The cost per bus service is something I'll touch on. The capital cost, as we do not have a robust, sustainable capital funding source. We only have our ad valorem. So that's a big challenge for getting more buses. The prices have gone from basically $720,000 to $840,000 for a CNG bus in the last year and a half. So that's part of the reason why we struggle and why we're a little bit interested in the renewal of the CIT. As it cannot fund operations, it could only fund capital. Here is a snapshot of the service going into March of 2020. I was very, very proud at that time when I was at Hart. We made some changes that were implemented in March, and we had one of the best service networks I think Hillsborough County had ever seen. What you see in green is our 15-minute service network. Those are 4 core routes on Hillsborough Avenue, Florida Avenue, Nebraska, and 56th Street. The light blue, Route 12 on 22nd Street is at 20 minutes, and then you see a sea of blue at 30 minutes. This is weekday service. That sea of blue at 30 minutes was something I was really proud of. It was a good, solid level of service for the service that we run that is fairly bare bones due to our funding constraints. And now we're going to fast forward to what we are going to have on the street as of January. And what you can see is, thanks to the city of Tampa, the Route 1 is going to be back to 15 minutes for a fare-free pilot this year. There are several key 20-minute routes, Hillsborough Avenue, Nebraska, and 56th Street, and then a handful of 30-minute routes. But unfortunately, what you see here is a sea of purple that is hourly service. That is really hard to serve people the way that we would like to at that service level. We would like this to get back to a sea of blue. That's what we're striving to do. And I'll talk a little bit about how we hope to get there. Looking at the numbers, as I said, from March 2020 to January, 130 to January of 2025, 132 peak weekday vehicles, now to 103, 1,600 weekday service hours, now to 1,200. So we're at about 76% of that pre-COVID weekday service. The cost to get back there per service hours is in the range of 15 to 20 million annually. And that does not include the capital cost of the additional vehicles that we need to get back. So that's about 29 vehicles we need to get on the street with a spare ratio of 20%. So we need 35 vehicles to get back to that peak vehicle amount. And as I said, the cost for a new CNG is about $840,000. So the capital funding is still direly needed, even as we do the right things and refine our operation, reduce our hourly costs. I'll touch on that on the next slide, I believe. And then you can see routes 1, 6, 34, and 400 were every 15 in 2020, are every 20 minutes now, except for the Route 1. Route 12 was 20, is now 30. And then those handful of routes that are across the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County are all at 30 minutes, which were at 60. And that's a huge difference for people's lives. You know, if you miss one, it comes every 30, or if you miss one, it comes every hour. It's a sea change. And on the previous presentation, if you showed the average travel time for people on transit, it's more like double of what you're seeing in an automobile, if not a little bit more. And I don't have those numbers today, but I can get those if we come back anytime soon. So here's some of the good news. This is what showing you the cost of delivering our service for every hour across the network. And we're starting to plateau and bring that down. So that's the positive news. Another good sign is we are fully staffed on the bus side, at least we will be in the next 4 weeks. So that means the overtime that we pay to deliver our regular service is going to be reduced, further reducing this cost per every revenue hour. We've done a lot of hard work to bring these costs down. We've been perpetually on a fiscal cliff for many years, which means we had to be very careful of putting service back that we're not sure we can sustain long-term, right? So now that we're bringing these costs down, we address our capital backlog with the bus fleet, and we can start incrementally getting back to those pre-COVID service levels. And for the HART board members, the comprehensive operations analysis is going to look at the bus network, look at some of the latent demand, some on-demand potential in the county, and make sure that when we do put back that frequency, we're putting it back in a sustainable long-term way for both ridership and the long-term health of the community and the transit service itself. And then just to give you an idea of where we land on our cost per revenue hour compared to a lot of different peers, that thick light blue line in the middle is where we've been at from 2019 to 2023, and we're right in the middle of the pack of most of the peers you saw on the previous slide at 157, down from 162 in 2022. And then this is just an example of where we land with those peers from a funding perspective. You can see total funds expended per capita, and then total funds, so total funds expended on operations per capita in blue at $61, and then total funds expended on capital per capita at $8. And we are far below many of those peers, and just to remind you, we outperform them with riders per hour, because I do like celebrating that as much as I can. And then I'm going to, if I can take any questions, or we can let Ms. Williams just present this slide. This is in her wheelhouse, and then I can come back up if it pleases the board.
Sure. Sure. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Melanie Williams, Director of Budgets and Grants at HART. So I'll just briefly go over this slide, an overview of the Emergency Relief Grant. The application submission date for this grant was October 23rd, 2023, and it was for the Hurricane Ian. And the requested amount was $2,150,656. And then the purpose of the summary of this grant was to relieve the payroll and operations during that time, during Hurricane Ian in 2022. The grant was awarded in February 2024, and this grant reimburses the operations and salaries during the hurricane, and that was paid usually out of our Avalon Fund. So this is basically a reimbursement of all the funds that were paid during the hurricane. And that's the overview of the Emergency Relief Grant. Any questions?
Any questions?
About this grant?
Yes. Board
Yes,
Member.
go ahead.
Was your total amount that you requested reimbursed?
Yes,
Okay.
this is the total amount.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Johnny.
Thank you, Melanie and board members. The reason why this presentation was requested is Councilman Clendenin had asked a question at a previous meeting and I'll try to paraphrase, but he was saying that Hurricane Ian happened a number of years ago, and in that time, HART would have been required to balance the budget for those expenses used to transport folks to and from shelters. With the reimbursement coming after the fact, what are HART's plans to do with that revenue?
This grant was particularly for payroll. So with that grant, it was awarded. We have not applied for the grant yet, and it will, once we do apply and get the application approval from FTA to start spending on this grant, it will be utilized for salaries, payroll.
Board Member Slater.
Just more of a comment. First, thank you for the presentation. Just by way of comparison, it looks like you've basically recovered from pre-COVID numbers, the ridership, which tells me that you don't have a lot of choice riders. So you've got a lot of people that are using the system every day. But just more of a comparator comment, when I was responsible for Baltimore Transit, our revenue hours were $220, and when I was working with the DC Metro, it was $235. So you guys are doing pretty well.
Thank you.
Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Willits, and thank you for the presentation. This is really good, comprehensive data, answered a lot of questions that I had, so thank you for putting this together and coming. I do have one question, and I'm sure HART board members, this probably bore them, but concerning park and ride, I remember years ago that used to be a big, that was in vogue. There were park and ride lots all over the county. Is that something that is still a part of HART's plans where they, people park in these population centers and commute via bus, or is that kind of gone out of vogue? Does that not work, or is that still in use? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. We got a few key park and rides, mostly in East County. The main express routes we have out there, the 24, 25LX, serve Fishhawk and J.C. Hanley park and rides to come downtown in MacDill. We utilize the Wiregrass park and ride in Pasco, and there are a few other small ones. It's not that it's gone out of favor, it's just it's a resource question, right? Like, we get a lot more bang for our buck with local routes, so investing in really long express routes at a really high cost per rider doesn't make a ton of sense with our limited funding. So that's been the push and pull of that. Part of the comprehensive operations analysis that we're undertaking is going to explore if we should be changing our service model in some of those areas, maybe with more on-demand service that could feed more express type service. I think coordinating with Thea and put Mr. Slater on the spot here with the 301 extension, I think there are opportunities in the future to expand express service out there and maybe even convince him to send some funding our way to operate those things. So it's not that it hasn't gone out of favor, but the scale of the parking then kind of dictates how much service can you even supply, right? Say you have 300 parking spaces and you want to get 40 people on each bus. That's 6 trips in the morning. That parking's full all day. So then it becomes a footprint issue, and maybe it's structured parking. Working with FDOT on their PD&E for State Road 60 to Clearwater, one of the things we asked their consultant just last week was to consider a parking facility on the other side of the bridge for us to help create a better node for people to get to and get on an express service. So it's not that it hasn't, it's just when you're trading off, getting back to 30 minutes on a core corridor in the middle of our service network versus a few express trips in the morning, it's hard for me to make a recommendation to invest in the express service versus the local, and that's kind of the dynamic we wrestle with in service planning. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that's good answer. Thank you. So obviously, I'm very interested in trying to come up with ways to get from USF, Temple Terrace, University Mall, Fowler Avenue area to downtown Tampa and back on a regular. And I've looked at the plans for the BRT, and that thing's going to stop, I don't know, 150 times down Florida Avenue or something. It'll take you 3 days to get from USF to downtown with all the stops. And so I understand that that's got to do that in order to get to the ridership levels that in order to qualify for grants and so forth. But that's not going to really, it doesn't look to me anyway, like that's going to really, and the terminus of that is the University Area Transit, whatever the name of that is, UATC or whatever it is. And so that's not really right next door to USF or Temple Terrace either. Nobody's going to go there. So I'm still trying to figure out ways to, and I'm not the only one. I mean, USF's wrestling with this, and so is Mosey, and so is University Mall. But we're really trying to figure out ways to get some kind of transportation that doesn't stop 100 times getting both ways. So anyway, we can talk further about that, but
Sure.
But thank you again for the presentation.
Sure. Yeah, the BRT as planned is about 20 some odd stops in each direction. Right now, we've got about 55 or 60 in each direction on Route 1. And it's our highest ridership route, so it's a great corridor as is. But I would love to end that service on USF's campus. If anybody here wants to champion that with USF, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wallstall?
Thanks. I was just going to speak to your point about your question about park and rides, and the 24 and 25 LX were mentioned. I'm very familiar with those because they're two of our worst performing routes by far. I think one of them has an average of 9 riders per day. So I think that, and that's from going all the way from Fishhawk on an express down to MacDill. It brings into question the viability of even continuing to run those routes, is why I've brought it up, because I think that those resources should be more allocated to where there's a more dense population and probably likely higher ridership and benefit to the public. So that's all.
Okay. And my suggestion would be to kind of think about a pilot from USF in Temple Terrace to downtown. Just think about it.
Well,
And bring
it
back-
starts January on Route 1. It's free, so that should be a first step.
Okay.
But we do have the express service hourly on the 275 LX, which does serve Fowler Avenue and Bruce B. Downs. But specific to Temple Terrace, the Route 6 on 56th Street is our second highest ridership, but we would love to add more, so.
Okay. Board Member Redden?
As we look at a lot of the growth here, and especially over in east side of the county with growing, we've got 7 new schools coming in the next 10 years. That's an additional 6,000 to 10,000 students entering Hillsborough County. And so many of the routes that you have over in Hillsborough County are coming from east to downtown or east into the base. However, there's many options of being able to ride within East County to many businesses that are coming out to the East County area. And so have you ever considered routes that are just running in the east side of the county alone, not coming into downtown? Because I think that's where we're losing a lot of the riders. That is where more of the affordable housing is coming in. And so that's where we're seeing a lot new residents coming out that way, and yet we're seeing more cars and not more buses.
Yeah, that's a great point. The real struggle there is the types of corridors that you have, right? They're isolated, suburban, cul-de-sac, not great connectivity. The one good thing we have in the core area is a grid pattern with somewhat walkable connections to transit. The 301 corridor is a great example, right? They're walled off neighborhoods. It'll take you 10 or 15 minutes to walk to the bus stop. Penetrating a bus into some of those neighborhoods is very difficult. So more on-demand options might be more feasible, but then you're going to have to force a connection to the main line. And the growth that you're seeing, because our ad valorem is so low, it's not generating the revenue to stand up a new service when we're still trying to get back to the service levels of 2019. So we're back to, should we expand with bare bones service in the core area? And it's kind of the same old story for long-term sustainable funding.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Johnny?
We are going to be working with HART to develop the COA this coming fiscal year, and there's maybe a really good opportunity for us to partner with the Tampa Bay Partnership as well on some data analysis. One of the questions that we'd like to answer through the COA is what percentage of HART's riders, especially in areas that are seeing increased ridership on the fringes, whether those are folks using the bus system as the primary transportation mode, or whether they're just using it as a bridge, like maybe the car's in the shop and they need to use transit to get back on stable ground, or using it to bridge the gap to pay the rent, pay the mortgage, and whether that trend of increased ridership on the fringes is expected to continue, and whether a 40-foot is the right solution or maybe a smaller vehicle.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you all so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we move on to the overview of the regional MPO. Good morning.
Good morning. Sarah Caper, TPO staff, and I'll be presenting this morning on the regional MPO support activities scope of work and asking for your feedback in advance of Friday's Transportation Management Area Leadership Group meeting. To begin with, a little bit of an overview of what this is, and the purpose of it is to create a staffing, management, and procedural framework for a regional MPO that is consistent with both federal and state statute. What we need is someone with expertise in the MPO requirements, organizational management, intergovernmental responsibility, facilitation and conflict resolution, and also the legal support. One of the reasons this came about is that since about 1990, there have been discussions of a regional MPO serving the Tampa Bay region. Each county in Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough has their own MPO. This is due to our development pattern and geography. But following the census, since about 1990, there have been discussions about a regional MPO. And so this continues that effort to explore what that might look like. Some of you might recall that in 2023, the state legislature required that we do a merger report. At that time, after the report was complete and submitted to the governor, there was also an approved memorandum of understanding between the three different MPOs, and the MPOs agreed to investigate forming this regional MPO and looking at the organizational structure. Following that, in 2024, we began talking about apportionment, thinking about what that regional MPO could look like, and at your September special meeting, we brought before you a first review of this scope of services. A little bit about what's in the scope of services. Here's a sample of some of those deliverables, looking at the legal analysis of the requirements, continuing to present that draft apportionment plan, but put it down in writing with the different components, looking at the organizational structure and what the different evaluation of pros and cons of what that could be, and also putting together some costs. This study is going to be funded by FDOT. They've already agreed to $500,000 that would be given to the Hillsborough TPO to do this work, and we would be responsible for managing it in partnership with the Pasco MPO and Forward Pinellas as deputy project managers, and the TMA leadership group would provide feedback on the different work products. When we came to you in September and also to the TMA leadership group, some of the things we heard about the draft scope is that there's value in having this outside consultant and their expertise, that we should look at a phased approach to do the $500,000 worth of work. Don't do it all at once, but come back at key increments to check in before we authorize more of the funding, and also operating in good faith with this effort. We've made some clarifications and revisions to the scope of service, asking for those phasing at key milestones and checking in with our decision makers before we proceed, clarifying some of these work efforts and the costs, talking about what the host agency requirements are if that's the preferred option. Right now, for example, the Planning Commission is the host agency of the Hillsborough TPO, and so our staff services agreement talks about how we are hosted. We have also added clarification about the roles of the TMA leadership group, the individual MPO responsibilities, and how we would address checking in with those individual MPOs. Some of the next steps. Tomorrow, Thursday, Dr. Wong is presenting to Tampa City Council. We have the TMA leadership group meeting on Friday. If the TMA approves the scope of services, TPO staff would begin to enter into the agreement with FDOT for the funding. We would also finalize the procurement documents, which include required reviews by our legal team and FDOT, and then initiate the release of the RFP. The TPO is allowed to do our own procurement, and we have the legal ability to do that, so we would do that following our procedures, which are in line with the Planning Commission's procedures, and we would certainly make sure that we're also in line with any county requirements and state and federal requirements of the RFP. Here's a draft of the process and schedule. This is contingent on the TMA approving the scope, so if the TMA does not approve the scope, we would adjust some of the timeframes that are in here. But the general process is the same, where the TMA approves the scope, we would release the RFP package, receive the proposals, have a staff review and recommendation, take that recommendation to the TMA leadership group. We would then take that recommendation to you, the Hillsborough TPO board, because we would be the ones entering into the agreement, go through our approval process here, negotiate and execute an agreement with the consultant, and then issue a notice to proceed. If the TMA approves the scope at their meeting this week, we anticipate that notice to proceed would be in late summer or fall of 2025. And this morning, we're looking for your feedback in advance of the December meeting on both the scope of services and the timeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Worcester.
Have we gotten an answer yet? Just because it's been thrown out there like a hand grenade like 8 times that the city of Tampa can torpedo this, I'm tired of hearing it. Have we gotten an answer from the actual city council on where they stand? Or they're going to be supportive? Or is that how their body actually feels, that they want to use their power to thwart it? Have we gotten that?
Commissioner, no, we haven't gotten a specific response to that, but I am making a presentation to the city council on Thursday, and my hope is to, I can't get a legal commitment. All I can get is a verbal commitment that they'll explore the process with an open mind, and so that's my intention for making that presentation.
Okay, that'll at least be helpful. Thank you.
I just want to ask a follow-up question. Do we know that it's, who ultimately has the authority to bind the city of Tampa or speak for them, the mayor or the city council or both? Do we know the answer to that?
Commissioner, the statute isn't clear about that. It doesn't provide any guidance. This requirement originates in the federal law on MPOs, and it's repeated in state statute on MPOs.
Yeah.
It just says that MPOs are formed, they're designated by action of the local government body representing 3/4 of the local population, which is obviously always going to be the counties, and the central or most populous city municipality within that body. So it does not say.
It may ultimately be the city attorney that makes the determination of who actually speaks for the city. And I don't know the answer, but
Right. And that may be the case. I think the challenge, I think from a legal standpoint, is the statutes don't offer any guidance as to that. So.
Okay, Commissioner Worcester.
I'll ask another follow-up then, because that was a good point. Does the county have to participate in the MPO?
I would say yes, because that's where the core of the population is.
Right, there's a charter, though, that we have that has to be agreed to, right?
The counties, I'm sorry, you're talking about the county charter?
To create the MPO?
So MPOs, when pursuant to federal law, when the census designates an urbanized area, which is over 50,000 people, an MPO has to be formed for that area in order for federal funding to be able to be channeled to projects within that urbanized area. So every MPO that I can think of, the county is part of it. I think there are some smaller specific MPOs. I think Gainesville has an MPO. I have to double check to see if their county is part of it. But that may just be that the urbanized area for Alachua County is very localized to the city of Gainesville. But most jurisdictions, the county government is part of the MPO or even the largest part.
I know that you're saying that they are, but is it some mandate that, do we have to participate?
I would say under federal law, if the 75% of the population in the urbanized area encompasses the county government, then I would say probably yes. In Hillsborough's case, a massive part of the population is outside any of the municipalities, and so under federal law, I would say yes.
And what happens if they choose not to?
There's no penalty listed in these provisions. However, in order for federal funding to flow to roadway projects within an urbanized area, they have to be approved by the MPO through adoption of the TIP every year and the 5-year adoption of the LRTP.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first, I have a couple questions. Sarah, can you go back? You said something right as you finished and then you closed, and it was concerning the timeline. If the TMA approves the scope of work or something, then you would expect work to begin, and I think you said like the end of next year, and
Yes.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that sounds like glacier speed here, so.
Sure. So let's say the TMA leadership group approves the scope of work on Friday. We estimate it would take 1 to 2 months to make sure we have all the agreements in place. Some of those agreements might have to be signed. We would have to make sure all the procurement includes the appropriate contract, because typically when we release the RFP, we include the contract in that, so we make sure that all of those pieces are ready to go. Then we would release the RFP. So if we approve it on December 6th, we think that the earliest it could be released is January 6th, but we did account for a little bit of a conservative number just in case something happens in the review process. We estimate that the RFP would be open for 5 to 6 weeks so that we could get good competitive proposals. So then you have another 5 to 6 weeks to receive those. Then we would have the review process and staff recommendation. We estimate this would take 4 weeks to allow staff to review the proposals, have a meeting to discuss them. If there are presentations, do those presentations, and then go through that recommendation process. Then we would go to the TMA leadership group, which we think could either happen at the May meeting or a special meeting would have to happen in June or July, depending on those earlier steps and how quickly we're able to make them happen. After that meeting, we'd have to come to you as the TPO board, so that would be in the summer of 2025, following the TMA meeting. Then we'd have to negotiate the agreement with that selected firm, so that's another 1 to 2 months to do that negotiation process, which brings us to late summer or fall of 2025 for a notice to proceed. It's certainly possible it could be sooner than that if all of these timeframes happen at the early end. If it's 1 month and not 2, if it's 5 weeks, not 6, if we can go to that May meeting and not need a special one, it's definitely possible to be sooner, but we wanted to be on the conservative side with our estimate.
Okay, Commissioner Cohen, oh, I'm sorry.
Just real quick on.
Go ahead.
I'm a little concerned, Johnny, maybe you know the answer to this, but I know the composition of the TMA is going to have been affected by the election. And my concern is, I don't know if all of those bodies, if the commissions have had their assigned duties of each commissioner has probably changed. And then the MPOs need to also meet with the new people, and then the TMA representatives are selected. So there's quite a few steps, and I'm concerned about this Friday. Are we sure that we're going to have everybody seated? Because we've already had problems with some people wanting do-overs of items that we've already discussed and hashed out and come to an agreement on, and then all of a sudden somebody wants to go back and start that whole discussion over again, and we go right back 6 months earlier. So I'm a little concerned about the productivity of Friday's meeting. Do you have any information on that?
Yes, Mayor Ross, that's a good question. Unfortunately, I wish that I could give you a more clear-cut answer, but there's a lot of uncertainty. Certainly, the backtracking is a major concern that we have that could severely impact this timeline, as well as turnover of the TMA reps. I do know that we'll have a quorum at the TMA meeting, so we will have a body that's able to make a decision at the time. Who attends for Pasco and Pinellas, I'm not certain yet.
Okay.
And I'm also not certain whether that will impact the decision on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Cohen?
I just want to say, and this is I totally support your timeline here, and you know, I support your work product. But what people hate about government is that it's going to take us a year to hire a consultant, okay? I mean, it is unbelievable how long it's going to take to do this. But it sounds like the TMA is not going to be able to be in much of a rush if they can't even figure out where they stand on some of these issues. So I guess my comment is really just that it seems like this is moving very, very slowly.
Yes. Mayor Kilton?
Yeah, Dr. Wong, just out of curiosity too, in your presentation on Thursday to the Tampa City Council, will you be talking about the consequences if we don't move forward? And I think that's been an item of debate here that I'm still not sure that we're absolutely clear on. I mean, if for whatever reason there is a nuclear option from Tampa, I think there's some assumptions that it's just status quo, and then I think there's some assumptions that Tallahassee has the opportunity to force us into a regional, MPO. And do we have exact clarity on that? And will that be part of your discussion on Thursday?
Mayor, I certainly anticipate that question will come up. I'm limited to 5 minutes for presentation and Q&A, but several of the city council members have been involved in these conversations over the years, and they understand what's at stake. So whether I initiate that conversation or it comes up in Q&A, I fully anticipate that I'll get put on the spot. My response will be that it's not a certainty that the legislature will move proactively if the nuclear option is exercised, but that's certainly one possible outcome, and I think we should be prepared for that. And so while we're having this conversation about phasing the work products, if there is a milestone to be achieved and one of the stakeholders says, no, we vote not to move forward with the merger, I think it may be worthwhile to continue with the work and explore what an organizational framework may look like and what the staffing arrangement could look like. Because if this falls apart due to a vote of either the BOCCs or the city of Tampa, we would want some information to provide to our legislature so that they're not making decisions without our input.
Commissioner Coyne.
So I have great respect. I am a former Tampa City Council member. I have great respect for the prerogatives of the City Council and for what their powers are. But I am certain that the mayor is in favor of us going forward with these discussions. And I don't really think that the city could exercise a nuclear option if the mayor is in favor of continuing the discussion. I don't know, I'm not the city attorney, but at the very least, if there was a split between them, I don't see how that could force us out of at least the discussion, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Mel Kilton.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Long, you make a great point that even if that were to occur, it's an important exercise to make sure that we're giving feedback that's specific to our, region, to those that would be making that decision if that's what it comes down to. So thank you for making that point.
Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to your point, Commissioner Cohen, I have had discussions with Mayor Castor about this, so she knows that I don't know if it's the entire city council or just the members of the TMA from the city council, but it was very clearly stated at the last TMA meeting that Tampa City Council may very well exercise their prerogative they're not interested in this, and because they were frustrated that those particular members felt underrepresented in this body, and that forming a merged TPO would only further exasperate that. And so they were against the whole idea. And that really caused a lot of consternation at the TMA meeting, because representatives from the other two counties, as well as me from representing you, and so all three counties, are like, well, wait a minute, if you already know that you're going to kill this, tell us now. This was what Pinellas County said, tell us now, because I don't have any interest in coming down here for the next 2 years and doing this exercise if you already know that you're going to kill it. And my comment, and I was speaking for me, not you, but I didn't have any interest in spending $500,000 of taxpayer money. I know it's DOT money, but it's still taxpayer money. DOT doesn't have any money, it's all taxpayer money. And so I'm not interested in spending $500,000 just to conduct an academic exercise if you're going to kill it anyway. And so, I've said from the beginning, I think it's important that everybody in that TMA group be negotiating this in good faith. Now, I don't know how anybody could possibly know how you're going to vote at the end of this process, because we don't know what the end product is going to look like. So I'm far from saying that I'm going to vote in favor of it, because I don't know what it might look like. But we're never going to get to this if we don't all come together in good faith. And if you already know that you're dead set against it, you're probably not the best person to be at the negotiation table. Send somebody that's going to have an open mind. I mean, you can't pledge that you're ultimately going to be in favor of it, but if you already know that your biases are one way or the other, you're probably not the best person to be there. But I can see the outcome of Thursday's meeting is going to be of tremendous interest to the representatives from the other two counties, I can tell you, because they're not comfortable moving forward if Tampa's going to kill it.
Hold on one second. Secretary Gwynn.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure we're not getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. So if you want to call a nuclear option or whatever you call it, somebody can pull a plug on the whole thing. Really, we're not at that point where somebody can do that or that would be the time to do that. The purpose of the study, if you remember, the legislature came to us and directed us to do a study to look at a regional MPO. Based on their thoughts that the Tampa Bay region should present itself as a region when looking at federal funds, when looking at regional transportation planning. And so that was why we embarked upon this process in the study. The study itself, hopefully, should answer a lot of the questions that people may have already assumed they know the answer to. And so I think it'd be a little short-sighted to say if one party is saying, we don't think we're in favor of it, to say then, well, let's just drop it and not move forward. Hopefully, everybody will go into the process with at least an open enough mind to say, I'll consider it and look through and get all these answers to the questions I have. But I don't think that if the current city council, and I've not heard it from other than maybe one or two people saying that out loud, I would hate to see us say we think that the city council would create a nuclear option, and so let's not even do anything. I think this study gives us an opportunity to move forward. It may be at the end that everybody on the, if you remember, it's not just the city that has the nuclear option. Hillsborough County has it, Pinellas County has it, Pasco County. Everybody has the option. City doesn't have a special power that the others don't have. Everybody has that power, but we need everybody at the end to agree to it to make it work. So I would just say, before we talk about nuclear options and all that stuff, I would think that we do the study, answer the questions, and then at that point, the discussion can be about when and why somebody might decide not to agree.
Thank you. Commissioner Worcester.
I'm assuming St. Pete and what is it, Zephyr Hills? Is that the biggest city in Pasco? No one else is saying it, right?
No, but Tampa has the population. Tampa is the only city that's large enough to have the veto.
Okay.
So it's the three counties in the city of Tampa.
Okay.
So the other municipalities are there. They're in the discussions, but they don't have the same, like we don't, Temple Terrace doesn't.
Okay.
Commissioner Coyne.
I think it is better sooner rather than later. It's clear with the counties that the Board of County Commissioners is going to have to make the decision. I think it's better sooner rather than later that we find out as a legal matter who is going to bind the city of Tampa. We need to know the answer to that either way, no matter how this thing goes going forward.
Okay. Any other questions? Good dialogue. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving right along to the Executive Director's report. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Keep my director's report brief. As we've already discussed, on Thursday, I'll be presenting the overview of the merger scope of work to the city, and I've explained my intentions for that meeting to you already. On Friday, there will be a Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance. For some of the folks new to this group, the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance is the large regional body that covers the 8 counties: Citrus, Hernando, Polk, Pasco, Hillsborough, Sarasota, Manatee. There's also a smaller regional body composed of just Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough, which is called the TMA, Transportation Management Area Leadership Group. That's a special federal designation for the TMA. Both of those bodies will meet at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council in Pinellas Park on Friday. We, as in the Hillsborough TPO, is requesting that Those regional bodies add the I-275 widening project from Hillsborough to Bears to their respective regional priority lists. And the TMA will also receive a presentation from Vic Bidet from the City of Tampa and Demetra Simmons, who spoke earlier, on their work regarding the Regional Infrastructure Accelerator Grant. And those bodies will also be asked to approve the regional merger scope of work. Next Wednesday, we'll have our regular board meeting. At the December regular meeting, it's customary that the TPO approves the following year's meeting calendar and selects its officers and committee assignments. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that in advance. I'd also like to report that a couple weeks ago, we, as in the TPO, was invited to attend the second annual Camp Streetlights event hosted by Children's Services. I saw a number of you there. I thought it was a great event. A couple of our staff were able to do breakout groups with high schoolers toward the end of the evening. So we broke out in small groups and talked about the connections between planning and youth homelessness, spoke a lot about our transportation disadvantaged service work, some of our work on food, banking, and grocery deserts, and health deserts. I want to say kudos to the high schoolers that participated, because I heard that the temps dropped to the 40s that evening, but it was a great event nonetheless. And last, I want to close out with a piece of really good news that I learned just yesterday. We learned that we won a federal grant totaling more than $1 million. We're going to use that money to coordinate our prioritization and tip processes across the region. So although we're the grant recipients, the intention of the grant is to merge the Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough priority lists, make that more transparent. So we're going to be eyeing improvements like mapping and a digital dashboard to show our performance metrics, basically showing the public how we come up with these projects and how we advance them. There is a welcome meeting for all the winners in mid-January, and after that, we'll start working on developing the grant agreement. That's all from me.
Congratulations. I mean, it's good grant. Yeah, any questions? Yes, Mayor.
Dr. Wong, is there any plans? I remember when Mayor Lott from Plant City, who had served on this body for forever, when he left the TPO, there was some, we did call him back at a subsequent meeting and did a little recognition for him. Are there any plans to do that for Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, Mayor. So another surprise, I was planning on just coordinating this with the chair and,
sorry.
having it be a secret visit, but I heard from Commissioner Kemp and her aide this morning that they'll be available.
Okay, I mean, she's very passionate about transportation and worked very hard on this. I mean,
She served on the board for about 8 years, if my memory serves me
We didn't
correct.
always agree, but she worked very passionately on this board, so I think it's good that we do that, so thank you. Sorry to ruin your surprise.
Okay. Any other questions for Johnny?
Yeah, just address the question about the legal issue that Commissioner Cohen was mentioning as far as the city's ability, who can bind the city on this merger, the mayor or the city council. Is that something we should request an attorney general's opinion? And if that's the case, do we need to get authority from the board to request that AG?
It may or may not be. I think the language is so ambiguous. So the other challenge of it is an AG opinion is typically going to opine on state law. The difficulty in this is the original requirement comes from federal law. The Florida statute sort of echoes it in its own language. Whether the AG opines on federal law, I'm not sure. But if that is something that's necessary, we could certainly explore that route. I think what I just took in my notes after you spoke, Commissioner Cohen, was just to reach out to the city attorney's office because they have a good sense of what power city government has and whether that's an option to take. Another thing that occurred to me when I was reading it is the federal statute only says that the central city, the largest city, has to be included in the MPO agreement. It does not say how that is done. Potential legislature could make a change to define that, to essentially say it's consistent to say whether it's a mayor or a city council. That's up to the state statute could define that further in a way that's not inconsistent with federal law. And they have done that with MPOs before. But my initial thought was I'm going to reach out to the city attorney's office to talk about this because they have a much better sense about the powers of city elected officials than I do. If an AG route is advisable, I could certainly go that direction, but I'll start with the city attorney's office.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yeah, I would just say that, the city attorney does work for the mayor. However, you get into these questions all the time of whose authority is what. The other thing is that they might have some perspective, or your office might actually, on what has happened in other jurisdictions when these types of situations have come up. Who actually ultimately made the decision. If they were trying to form a regional MPO in Nashville, Tennessee, who actually made the decision on behalf of the various municipalities that were involved? And I'm just using Nashville as an example.
Sure, and I think that, between the two of us, Dr. Wong and I can see how other MPOs have done this. This is a relatively unusual circumstance.
It's a very interesting question for those that are,
Even just looking at the state statute on this just this morning, the original requirement that was created for this report to go to the legislature December 31st of last year, that's what's still in there. Nothing has changed about that. I did note that there was a bill in the last session that would have taken that out and made the same requirement for Lee and Collier County to consider merging. That never went through. So the part that this board has already satisfied is what's still in the statute, and there's been no action since then. But it's an uncommon circumstance. Most of the single jurisdiction MPOs are staying single jurisdiction, but most MPOs are multi-jurisdictional. So and they're really written to be that way.
The other thing is, if the mayor made the decision to bind this to bind the city to this or to move forward, it might be that the city council could veto the decision, but that requires a supermajority vote. That's a different standard than just a legislative action on their part that would only require 4 votes. So there's a lot of places this could go depending on how it gets articulated. My point, though, is we shouldn't wait to have this pop up a year from now when a decision needs to be made and then nobody can figure out who's going to make it. We should deal with the question now so that it's clear when the time finally comes.
Okay, I think we have the marching orders now. So we want it very clear and to come back. Have that, Johnny?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
Board.
Yes, okay. Okay, any other questions? Gonna move right on to old business. Any old business? Any new business? 11:07, we adjourn. Have a good day and enjoy Giving Tuesday.